Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 78th episode, where we get a chance to talk to legendary coach Pete Savage. Coach Savage is the head coach at Reno High School. He's been there since 1995, and he has won over 80% of his games at Reno High School. Over 700 career victories from 2001 to 2004. This is incredible. From 2001 to 2004, his teams went 105-13 in a 3-year span. In 2004, they were Nevada State champion. 2003, they won 32 consecutive games, 12 region titles, 15 state tournament berths, 4 runners-up. He has a big leader right now, Garrett Hampson, which he talks about how Garrett and how humble he is. It's a great story. We'll leave that for the conversation so you get a chance to hear that and what he hears about him. But right away, and this is exactly why I do the bios, more guys who are in it for the players and not for their ego have a hard time with talking about their bio. And right away, he stops and gets into it and says, the bottom line about this bio is that we're here about these players and what we're doing for these players today. And Coach Savage, it spoke volumes of who he is and the coach he is and what it's about. Has a hard time with it. It's all great, but he couldn't tell you a lot of it because he said the bottom line is we're here, we're doing this for the players and what the players need today. So that's just a little bit about how Coach Savage is, and he just hit the ground running right from the get-go, the conversation right from that. So we just rolled, and it was very enjoyable. We could have took it all night long. I'm hoping we'll talk again and get a chance to do that more often, but man, we just rolled, and we talked a ton from that conversation about kind of his values right then and there, about him being about his players, his culture, program, what his program is about. He talked about his pillars, talked about his pregame workout, from his pregame stuff, then talked about into his practice and how he's preparing in his timeline of the year. So it's just a ton of information. I took a ton of notes. Coach Savage really helped me get better. And we just can't wait to share this to see if it's going to help anybody else out there get better. So, Coach Savage, can't thank you enough. Just like I can't thank Will Miner and these guys for putting me in a place with the Netting Pros chat guys and the Netting Pros family with other great podcasts. If you haven't checked those out, there's so many other great podcasts that Netting Pros are sponsoring. Netting professionals are improving programs one facility at a time. Will Miner, Netting Pros, specialize in design, fabrication, installation of custom netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, and dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Netting professionals continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Contact the Netting Pros guys at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for other latest products and projects. So, again, can't thank Will Miner and those guys there for enough. And Coach Savage for taking the time. It's been a conversation we've been trying to make for a while now, just getting to know him through Coach Sato and Coach Roof. If you haven't checked those guys out, those episodes, they were amazing. And Coach Savage, we just hit the ground running. It was great to talk to him. And without further ado, I want to get right into it, man. Here he is, Coach Pete Savage.
To be honest with you, those things are all great and nice and everything, but the bottom line is what we're doing today for our players and what we've done in the past for our players and what we're going to do in the future for our players and our athletes. And, So I don't know. I'm very uncomfortable talking about records and wins and championships because that's not what we're here for. We're here to, our mission statement of our program is to teach life lessons through the game of baseball, which I'm sure a lot of programs say that. Ours is truly that every single day. I really believe actions speak louder than words. And if you were to come watch our practice or come watch our team play, I would hope you would see a bigger picture mentality of, helping people become better men and better teammates and all that. So, I don't like talking about accomplishments. I think those are all fine and dandy, but the truth is we're here to serve others. We're here to, my family raised us to, we're put on this earth to help other people. That's the bottom line, and to sacrifice for others. And that's what we try to do every day.
Love it. Love it. Yep. That's exactly why we're here talking, and I just can't thank you, man, for taking some time and talking and that's what we're trying to keep spreading the word, man. Cause like it's so similar. And that's the reason I do the bio myself, because there are so many people like yourself. They don't want to come up here and they don't want to talk about it. So I'm like, I'll do that on my own, and be sure that I give you the proper introduction itself. But it's so funny. Not that it's funny. It's just that's a common thing that I have seen with just great coaches that I get a chance to talk to.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity of being on your podcast. I love what you're doing. I think it's very important that you're growing the game the right way. Your podcast is certainly one that I listen to every week and learn from every week. You've had some outstanding coaches on here, and I feel honored and blessed to be on with you tonight.
Thanks. It's been and I share that honor. That's for sure. I share that for sure with you, because I've been on podcasts. I remember being listening to podcasts and Zoom calls over the quarantine with you in them, from the ABCA to different ones. So I'm just it's been a real pleasure. And then when I got the chance to talk to Pudge, of course, and then Steve Roof and Joel Sato, and they're within like the coaching mastermind with you. I'm like, yeah, man, like love to get in the chance to talk to Coach Savage, because Coach Sato was like, I thought I was doing some good stuff, and then all of a sudden we go to play Coach Savage, and I don't know what I'm doing.
He's a legend. That man's a legend, and so is Coach Roof. I learn from those guys every day. And the thing about baseball, you're going to win, you're going to lose. Some years you're going to be better than others, but it's really what we can do for these young men every single day. And we have been very successful in our program, and I think there's a lot of reasons why. There's a ton of reasons why. The first, is our coaching staff. I surround myself with unbelievable coaches. I have 3 current coaches on my staff that are former head coaches in high school. So that's a different perspective. When you've been a head coach, one was a head coach at a rival for 30 years, Ron Malcolm. He does an outstanding job. My hitting coach, Nick Royal, my pitching coach, Brian Ocano, my other coach, Greg Dunn, so I surround myself with outstanding assistant coaches because, when you have a 25-man roster, or when you have 3 teams and there's 70 players in your program, you need great coaches, because it's all about teaching the game and teaching them how to teaching them life lessons through the game. And it just takes a lot. So I surround myself with great coaches, and that goes for our opponents too. You mentioned Coach Sato and Coach Roof. I never played against Coach Roof's team because he's all the way out of Kentucky, but Coach Sato in Utah, we play, and it's just an honor to play his program and the way he does things. So the first thing is our coaching staff. I think that you're only as good as your assistant coaches. The days of one guy trying to coach 25 kids is just not fair to the kids. And, especially if you're going to teach, but that's what we are as teachers. The second thing is we have program vocabulary and program language which we talk about. And And I think it's really important as a young coach. I've been coaching since 1986, actually. I was a JV coach, assistant JV coach to begin with. And then I was a head JV coach and I moved up to assistant varsity and then varsity. And, you got to really step back as a coach and decide what you want to stand for, what you want your program to look like. So this is the way we do it at Reno High School, Reno High Baseball. But it's certainly not the only way, right? There's all kinds of different styles of coaching. And one of my great passions is studying coaches in every sport. And you can learn from anybody. You can learn from a soccer coach. You can learn from a basketball coach, football coach. But, a couple of things that we stand for in our program. And I've kind of evolved into this concept. We have a saying, complexity is the enemy of execution. And by that, I mean, we got to keep things simple. As coaches, we talk and we talk and we talk and we think they understand and we think they learn. And you may have to say something 1,000 times, but the simpler you keep your message, the more the athlete can put it into his or her game. So I think application and keeping it simple is very important. Respecting the game. Coach Chafin and what he talks about is guardians of the game and respecting the game. Hey, you'll never see my team or our team celebrate excessively. When we hit a home run, we want to act like we're going to do it again. And I think teams that go through those excessive celebrations, for me, it's like they didn't expect it to happen in the first place. So we're going to always respect the game and respect our opponents. The only, and old John Wooden deal is we always concentrate on us, probably 50-1 compared to the opponent, because really you're playing against the game of baseball. You're playing against the fundamentals of the game. And, respect the game, respect your opponent. But really the only thing the opponent does is give you a chance to play somebody else in a different color uniform. That's all it is. So don't get too caught up in the opponents. But some of our vocabulary, we always say the word I is not allowed on our field. It's not allowed. Once you walk through the gates of our stadium or another opposing stadium, the word I is eliminated. We never say, I want this or I want that or coach, no. I stop the guy in mid-sentence and say that's not allowed. The other word we don't use is perfect. It's not a perfect game, thank God, because otherwise adversity couldn't teach us so many good things. And so, this generation we're coaching right now, you'll hear him say a lot, perfect. No, there's nothing perfect in this world, and certainly not in baseball. Loyalty is a huge aspect of our program. We have a saying, you're either with us or against us. There's no middle ground. I got that from Gordy Gillespie way back in the ABCA days when he was a speaker, and he was so good. But, you're either with us or against us. There's no middle ground. And, we've all seen that player. He's the best teammate in the world when he's hitting third and playing every inning. And then he gets beat out or he's not playing well. And all of a sudden he's not a good teammate. So that's not allowed. That's a standard. It's not allowed. I think one of the most important things we can teach these young men, and if you're a softball coach, young women, or a basketball coach, is how to be a good teammate, how to be a great teammate. And again, I think every coach says that, but if you stop and think about it, just like you talked about, being a good father and a good husband, that's a team. Your family's a team. Your job is a team. Your church is a team. Certainly our baseball team is a team and a family. So that's a skill they're going to live and learn the rest of their life, how to be a great team player. And then we tell them what's it mean to be a good teammate. We show them examples, team always above self, sacrifices in our pillars. The word sacrifice is a huge word in our program because, you go back to Coach Murphy, the Alabama softball coach, and the word mudita, which I think is awesome. You got it when those teammates are just as happy celebrating somebody else's accomplishments. Definition of failure versus definition of success. I hate it when coaches say, Well, baseball's a negative game because there's so much failure involved in it. And in my opinion, the word failure, in the definition of failure in our program is when somebody quits, when somebody hangs up baseball. That is the definition of failure. Other than that, it's a learning experience that we're going to keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and we're going to learn from. You can learn a lot more from challenges and adversity than you can from success. But what is the definition of success? Okay. Is it really winning the state championship or winning a regional championship or winning a league championship? Hey, those are nice, right? But the definition of success in our program is giving your best effort every day and giving your teammates their best effort. So giving your best effort on behalf of your teammates. Okay. And then I have a thing, I've worked for, I think 5 or 6 different principals at Reno High School. And we had a guy named Robert Sullivan, who was an outstanding principal. And we won a championship, and he brings me in and he goes, "Hey, congratulations on that championship." And I was a young coach, and I was like, "Yeah, man, we're fired up. We're fired up. It was great to win that championship." And he said to me, he goes, "But you understand the true definition will be what those young men are doing 20 years from now. What are they doing 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Are they good fathers? Are they good businessmen, teachers, firemen, whatever they're going to be?" So that's the definition of success in our program. Being relentless and stay in the fight. Consistency is a huge part of our program. I think you said we've won 82% of our games that we've played. And that's important. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you the winning's not important. Winning, I'm as competitive individual as anybody in the country. Okay. We love to win. Okay. But being consistent is a huge part of it. Work. My grandfather was a Basque sheep herder from Spain. He came over to America when he was 14 years old. I'll never forget. I was working up at his sheep ranch one summer, and I took a little rest, and he said, whoa, what are you doing? He said, "You rest when you die. Keep working." So I'll always remember that. Being present with your team every day, trying to eliminate distractions. It's a daily chore for all of us as human beings to be present, right? It's hard. Measurement equals motivation. This generation loves things to be measured and competition and practice. We'll talk about that in a little bit more, but those are some of the things. Everything matters, from how we clean the dugouts to how we keep our equipment shed, to how the field looks, to how we treat our teammates, to how we act on the bus, to how we act in class, to how we keep our locker room. Everything matters. And every single teammate is equally important. I don't care if you're the guy that plays every inning of every game, or you're the young man who's the bullpen catcher who may get 2 at-bats the whole year. Everybody's important. That's what being a team player and being part of a team sport is all about. So those are some of our program standards and program vocabulary. So I hope that explains a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Is that something like as you is it a constant? Is it a constant talk with the kids? Is it something that you guys go over classroom wise, or is it something that's you have signs up? How do you basically communicate that to your players?
Well, a lot of it goes through our pillars, and I know a lot of people have heard me talk about our pillars before,
Yeah.
but so those are kind of what we make all our decisions based on. H stands for hustle, U stands for unity, S stands for sacrifice, Kaizen stands for get 1% better, I stands for intelligence, so being good academically and athletically and being a smart player and smart student. E stands for earn it, don't be entitled, and S stands for getting stronger. But we have signs, we have handouts, but it's you can give a young man a book, you can give him a binder, all those things, and we give him a ton of handouts. But it's more important the interaction between the player to player, coach to coach. That's what, and you just constantly, that old saying, "What you allow, you condone." So if you see something you don't like, we're all over them as a coaching staff. A guy doesn't hustle, a guy acts selfishly. And at the same time, when you see something you like, where the standards are emphasized by a player. That's and you got to catch him doing good too, and you got to praise that young man for his efforts. And I think that's what COVID kind of taught us, how important that human interaction. That's what coaching is all about: is human interaction, human connection, human communication. Just building respect and trust with the player.
For sure. No, that's awesome. I think more people need to hear that about catching them doing good. It's not about just holding the standard, but it's also then rewarding the standard, like you said, and praising the standard. Love that, and it's just like you promote what you praise, what you promote. You promote what you praise, and then so absolutely, man, that's awesome. I think that's a great message to share, because not many people talk about that, for sure.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, in our program, Trey, I've been told by a lot of people, if you love baseball, Reno High Baseball is a great program for you. If you just kind of like baseball, it's going to be challenging because, and it's not for everybody. But I mean, I'm so proud of our players and our families and our coaches. They're out there. I mean, I'm so fortunate to be a part of this deal. I mean, COVID is a great example. We took about a month off, and then we played 97 games during the COVID period without stepping on our field. We went all around the Western United States, staying virus safe, taking the temperatures, using the mask, using the sanitation. And Coach Sato, we went and visited him 3 times up in Utah. But we got through it, and I was on a mission to get through it, because, hey, these young men deserve. You only have 4 years of high school, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I would just believe that. Now, if you don't have committed players, that's not going to work. If you don't have committed parents, that's not going to work. If you don't have committed coaches, that's not going to work. But we got through it, man. We played 97 games from April 2020 through probably February 1st, 2021. We played 97 games. Yep, we kept grinding. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yep. I was proud of it. But that's just we play about 100 to 110 games a year. So since I started coaching, the head coach in 94 summer, my American Legion team and the high school team, we play about 110 games a year. And I just believe there is no better way to build team than spending time together. We can have all the kumbaya sessions and all that, but the best way to build teams is spend quality time together, and that goes to the practice environment, and it goes to team building environment. So we have ways we do that, and these kids end up being lifelong friends forever. Because of the way we run our program.
So I guess just take me through like a timeline, just so like those you said. So you'll start your high school games, I guess, in April, March?
Yeah, so we start March 1st. March 1st, last weekend of February is our tryouts.
Okay.
Then we have our preseason tournament. Then we play in a normal high school season where we go all the way to the state championship. We'll play about 36 to 40 games.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
And then that goes all the way till the middle of May. And then in May, Memorial Day, we started our American Legion program. From Memorial Day weekend through the 1st of August, we try to get 60 games in 60 days. And then we take a month off. We take August off. September through November, we're doing fall ball. We'll take a couple of weeks off at the end of November, and then we get right into winter baseball, winter conditioning. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we play a lot, but I like practice more than playing. Practice to me is, if you were to tell me that, hey, you can win the state championship or the College World Series or the World Series in the big leagues but never practice, I would decline the opportunity. I think practice is the environment where players get better. They become better teammates. And, we got this saying in our program, work the grind, play the game. So work the grind, play the game. And by that, I mean, basically, hey, we're going to work your butt off in practice. Practice is coach's time. Game time comes, and it's just play, man. Just play, have fun, and let it fly. So that's kind of how we do it.
And with your summer team, I'm just thinking about your Legion team. Is it mostly all your high school kids, or will you have others from around the area?
It's 100% Reno High kids.
Okay.
Once in a while, we'll have a senior from another school that wants to play that many games, and he'll ask if he can come play with us, and if he's a good kid. And I always check with that coach first, but it's 99.9% Reno High kids, and it's a grind. That's why I said you got to love the game to be in our program. And so, but we go on several road trips throughout the year, and team. Team identity, team building, those road trips are awful special. You get to go on a bus like a college team. We go to, I'd say 5 or 6 road trips a year. And we do all kinds of team building activities on the road, and we do them in practice. But I just think that, again, the more quality time you get to spend together as a team, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'm just thinking of so you'll have your varsity go through when you go to Legion, and it's 19 so like, is it just really your high school kids, or those kids maybe, like, let's say they went away to JUCO or something like that, could they still come back and play like they're 19 with you?
Yeah. So in the past,
Yeah.
in the past, we used to have a lot of JUCO guys come back.
Yeah.
Now I swear to God, more colleges are sending those kids out to college leagues, and that's fine. It doesn't. That's the other thing in our program. You show up every day with a good attitude, and you want to play a lot. You're gonna get really good. But in the past, we used to have more kids come back. Now most of those college kids are going and playing in college leagues. So, but they're always welcome, man. I mean, we have this thing: once you join for life. So, hey, if that JUCO kid wants to come back and play one more summer and he's American Legion eligible, of course we'd love him to play.
Okay. And then how do you guys run practice? So will you guys run practice with like those 70 kids at one time? Do you like doing it with? And that's a lot logistically, but how do you guys run practice like as a program?
During high school, we practice separately. During fall ball, we practice all together.
Okay.
I'm famous for long practices. I love 3 or 4 hour practices. I know that's kind of a coaching no-no, because, it's basically what the kids are getting out of it that matters. Right. But I think that, baseball's a game where you can't rush, and baseball is a game where there is no clock. And these people that try to speed the game up, it drives me crazy, because just let the game be what the game is. The game is a beautiful game the way it's set up. Just let it be. I mean, the high school rules, they come out with new rules every year, and it's like, God, stop, man. Stop messing with our game. Our game is great. Like we have a courtesy runner in Nevada, and it's just like, but it's good because he gets more guys in the game. But so when I practice, we love detail practices. I mean, I think John Wooden said, you got to spend as much time planning practice, or twice as much time planning practice as you do as practicing. So we got it down to the minute, man. I mean, it's my goal and my challenge every day to create a good practice plan, an efficient practice plan, where the players love to come to practice. They're getting better every day, right? So you got to keep everybody busy at all times. There's nothing worse than a bad baseball practice where guys are standing around not getting anything done. Mm-hmm. That's a complete waste of time. We don't do that. So, we built a hitting facility right next to our field, which it's a 90 by 90 hitting facility, which we need a lot in the winter because, it snows here in Reno. But then we have a great bullpen in a big field, and we have a subsidiary JV field. So we have a lot of resources that we've built. Everything we've built at Reno High has been raised by our program and our parents. And so I just think it's really important to have efficient practices. Keep your practices as competitive as you possibly can. Like I said, measure everything, measure every swing and BP, every ground ball, give them a ground ball percentage. I took a lot of that from Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt. He's kind of the standard. I learned a lot from Tim, who's a good friend of mine, and my brother John, who's at UCLA, John Savage. Those are my and Dave Lawn, actually, who's a pitching coach at Arizona. Those are my three guys. And there's a whole bunch of guys around the country that I learned from, but those are my main guys. But, live pitchers versus live hitters, right? It's a situational game. You have to put your players in situations that are going to happen in the game, and have them take ownership of practice, and compete in practice and all those things. And I just think that if you can create a good practice plan where it's efficient, where things are moving, and it's competitive, there's nothing, to me, it's the best part of every single day. And again, our job is to win today's practice. You heard Belichick say that. They were asking him all kinds of things. I can't remember what the question was, but I think they said, "Hey, Bill, if you could do one more thing in your coaching life, what would you want?" He goes, "Well, I'd like to win today's practice." And so when he's saying that, we better be saying that at Reno High School, just win today's practice. And, a bad practice bothers me much more worse than a bad game, because that bad game is created by a bad practice. So we try to win every practice, and it's a challenge, but we work hard at it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a great statement. A bad practice bothers me more than a bad game. Is this a consistent message? Is this something that has changed over the years?
I've always loved practice. I mean, I just think that, you can get a young man 100 ground balls, right? And then you go look at a game and he may get 3, 2, so it's like, and our players, God bless them, they're such wonderful, achieving young men. They want one thing from us as coaches. They want us to make them into better players and to better men. But also, it's like, "Coach, help me with my swing, help me with my pitching mechanics, help me with my mentality, help me with my mental game, help me with our base running." So, there's not a player in the world that wants to make an error. There's not a player in the world that wants to strike out. There's not a player in the world that doesn't wants to throw a bad pitch. So, they're very high achieving young men that want to get better. And so, I think it's really important for a coach to be a facilitator to their development on the field. And of course, off the field, teaching them all the life lessons. The other thing is you got to be honest with them. And, as a coach, you cannot be their, I don't want to be their friend. There's a lot of young coaches that make that mistake. It's like, "Hey, I'm going to be a player's coach." And it's like, "Hey, at times you can be a player's coach. At other times you got to lay the law down, man, because if you let one thing go, it becomes a dumpster fire that can't be put out in a real quick minute." And so, be honest with your players, tell them their roles. Hey, this is your role right now. And it's an important role. Put them into positions to succeed. If you got a little left-handed bunt specialist and you got a nasty left-hander on the mound that looks like Randy Johnson or Chris Sale, that's not a good matchup, but there's a situation for everybody to succeed in this game. As coaches, it's our responsibility to put them in positions to succeed. And, the last thing is, as a coach, if we're going to demand all these things from them, good body language, hustle, daily attention, daily work, we have to display all those things we're demanding from them. So we have to walk the walk, man. If we're going to demand them to hustle, then we got to be on practice early, organized, efficient, and do a good job for them, And if a kid strikes out, we can't act like an idiot and show terrible body language or blame an umpire, right? We can't blame an umpire, So it's just really important that you build that relationship with the player through all those things. And most of all, be there for them, man. Like I said, I don't want to be their friend, but I certainly want to earn their respect every single day.
Just by walking that walk and being there. And like I said, having the plan, displaying the things that you want.
Yeah, and showing up every day with a good attitude and with an organized practice plan, with a detailed scouting report, with when you have a meeting with them, have an organized player evaluation. I mean, it's important to do a good job. Do a good job as a coach. We have a lot of responsibility. A lot of responsibility. You think about Reno High is the oldest school in the city, so it's like 1860 or something crazy, right? So, and there's only been like 10 head coaches in the baseball program. I mean, one guy coached there for 46 years, Bud Beasley. And so, my mentor, Bill Penaluna, Tom, there's been some great coaches. So it's like right now I'm the one as the head coach, and my coaching staff, we're all one team working together, but it's like we have a lot of responsibility to live up to that, so do a good job where you're at, be present where you're at and do a good job where you're at.
I think that's great too to say about like that's like you put the relationship, which that's a big word now, and everybody knows relationships are important. But like you put relationship, yes, I'm building the relationship as I'm having a detailed plan. I'm coming prepared every day. I'm like we're all like I'm giving you everything I got at this practice whenever you're there, and that's also building the relationship too. You know what I mean? And I think that's where some people could that's where they get maybe turned off by that, by like building relationships. But like, I think that's great to hear from your perspective of like, that is building a good relationship, because that competency with being a big time coach will also help build that relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I think if you're not doing that, you shouldn't be coaching.
Yep.
I mean, these kids, their parents are obviously the most important thing in their life, most important people in their life. And we have wonderful parents. They're awesome parents. But coaches are right next in line, man. We spend 3 to 4 hours a day with these kids, 2 to 3 hours a day with these kids, 6 days a week, during the summer, 7 days a week. So it's like we spend a lot of time with them, and it's important that we give them our best effort. And, I always say there's a lot of relationships in baseball, right? There's player to coach. So that has to be a relationship built on respect and trust. The most important relationship is player to player. I think, earning the respect of your teammate is a perspective that is critical to team success and critical to individual development. We do a thing called peer evaluation, which is really important. Everybody ranks each other in these different categories. And, because I can tell a young man, hey, I think he's lazy, or he's a good hitter. He's a little bit lazy on defense. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever areas you want to be great at. But when his teammates rank him in those 5 different areas, then if it's coming from their point of view, it's like, hey, Johnny, this isn't what I think of you. This isn't what our coaching staff, this is what your teammates think of you. They think your work ethic out of a scale of 1 to 5 is about a 2.4. That's a problem. Or social maturity off the field. That's another category they rate. Hey, Johnny, you got a 1.8 on social maturity off the field. Empathy for teammates. How much do they care? You care about your teammates. That's one of those categories. Compatibility with the goals of the program, and then baseball talent. So it's like, hey, your teammates think you're a 5 on baseball talent, but you're like a 2.1 on how much you care about them. That's not good. Now, again, it goes back to that philosophy that nobody's perfect. There's nobody perfect, right? And if you're religious, like I am, the man on the cross teaches us, right, that nobody is perfect. We all have our failings. And so it's just something to work on. Everything's changeable. You can, a guy could be not a great teammate yet, right? I think the word yet's an important word. This guy hasn't got my coach will say, that kid can't hit. And I say, yet, right? Or that kid's curveball is not very good yet, because it's our job as a coaching staff to develop things, to get them better, and it's on us if that kid leaves our program with a bad breaking ball or a bad mechanical swing. So The power of the human spirit's amazing, man. One thing I've never done as a coach is put any limitations on a player. Like, hey, you can't play Division I, or you can't be a starter, or you can't play in the big leagues. I mean, I'm a high school coach. I'm never going to, hey, the world, we've all seen people accomplish things that are incredible, right? And so give them hope, give them vision, give them, have them earn that respect, and all good things happen.
Sure. I'd love to just get back to the player to player, critiquing each one, just for me, my ball's rolling here. Is this something that's done maybe anonymously? Like, hey, okay, you're going to vote each person. They give you a piece of paper. You have it done online, and then you kind of get the data. And then whenever you have like maybe your exit meeting or maybe your roles meeting, and that's when you go over this.
Yeah, that's basically what it's an Excel spreadsheet. You put down the 5 categories: baseball talent, work ethic, empathy for teammates, compatibility with the goals of the program, and social maturity off the field. But those are my categories.
Right.
You can come up, and then you have all the players listed on the left-hand side. The scale's 1 to 5, and you don't rank yourself. Mm-hmm. So, like if Cobb is listed and his number's on there, obviously it's his sheet, right? So then you compile. It takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way now with all the computers and everything. I'm a pretty old school coach, but you put them all together and you tabulate it and you tell them, hey, this is what your teammates think of you. I think that's that deal, man. It can go the other way too, where a kid, he might not think he's that good. And then you can say, hey, you know what? Your teammates, they think you're a 4.2 on baseball talent, bud.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Every single we do this thing called the foxhole test, and I'm sure you've heard of it. But the person you put in your back is your most trusted teammate. Your second one's on your right, third one's on your left. Well, two years ago in 2020, we had this backup catcher named Carson Esup, and just probably the best teammate I've ever had the privilege of coaching over 30 years in the game. And every single teammate out of 25 guys put him down as the most trusted teammate.
Mm.
Well, guess who was no longer our backup catcher, right? I mean, he didn't become our starting catcher because our starting catcher was his Division I guy, but I certainly found a way to get that young man in the lineup. But I mean, how awesome for that young man to be told, hey, bud, every single person on our team gave you the most trusted teammate. Now, I mean, I'd hire that guy right now. I would, right?
Oh, yeah, not a doubt.
So I think that peer evaluation is a good thing. That's what we do. Hero, hardship, and highlight. A lot of people do that because you get to really know the kids off the field, and it can't be baseball related. It can be everything else. It explains a lot about behavior. And so we also do a thing called As You See It, which is a great deal. I got that from the Dan McDonald out at Louisville, Mike Bianco at Ole Miss. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of the season, there's a form called As You See It, and the starting lineup, the best hitter off the bench, reliever, starter, middle relief, closer, those types of things. And so, hey, when you sit down for your player meetings at the beginning of the year and say, you know what, Johnny, you're the only person that has you down as a starting shortstop. Everybody else sees you as the backup. Mm-hmm. So that means that young man's self-evaluation, self-awareness is not very good. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something in this generation. And I'm not big into, hey, this generation, that generation, because I think the top third of our team right now could have played 80 years ago. They're outstanding young men. They're committed to excellence. But I also think that this generation, because of the environment they're growing up in, cell phones, Instagram, Facebook, they love to be recognized. And I think it's I'm not into that. It's like, you know what, man, when you work your butt off to hit 15 home runs, right? And when you hit that, it's like I use Derek Jeter a lot. Derek Jeter's a good role model for me because, you couldn't tell if Jeter was playing in the World Series 7th game or the 3rd game of a spring training, right? It's always the same, calm, always the same, and so don't be a roller coaster out there. And so, that goes to the mental game. The mental game is a huge, huge, huge part of our program. We've used several people. Ken Revisa was a real close friend of mine. I always think him as the godfather of the mental game. Unbelievable mind, unbelievable presence, unbelievable way of teaching. And then Brian Kane, we use Brian Kane a lot. He's got incredible energy. Justin Deemer, there's so many good people out there. But the mental game, the things I learned from Ken Revisa and also Brian Kane, those aren't baseball related things. Those are life things, right? It's like, one of the major emphasis in our program, Trey, is to build toughness. To me, same thing as being a good teammate, teaching these young men how to be tough is right up there, man, because life's hard.
Yes, it is.
Challenging things are going to happen throughout your life, and you got to learn how to deal with them. We've had some tragedies in our, it's been a tough, we lost a player. It was horrible. But the families go through cancer, families go through divorce, families go through addiction, families go through, and so the game teaches you how to deal with things, so you got to embrace adversity and turn negatives into positives as fast as you possibly can. So I believe that's a huge part of our job as coaches, is to prepare these young men for the challenges that life's going to bring them. And it's coming. There could be some young men could go through it early. Some families go through it late, but it's coming. Life's challenging,
I couldn't agree more. I think it's what we all have in common, period, in life. Adversity. That's one thing it's just absolutely in common. How do you, because especially being as, as time tested as you are, your stuff works. That's one thing, like talking to Coach Hell from Ohio, like he knows his stuff works and he looks at it. So when I'm thinking of like Brian Kane, using Brian Kane and all the guys, how do you balance whether to bring in a guy or you stick with yourself and what you're doing within what you're saying? Like, how do you balance those two?
Oh, we're in a constant state of improvement. I mean, I am a relentless learner, as far as, like, this is the Reno High baseball way right now. I mean, and we're going to stick with things that, the fundamentals of the game are the fundamentals of the game. And being a good teammate, throwing strikes, playing good catch, putting the ball in play, being tough at the plate, being good base runners, all the fundamentals of the game are the same fundamentals that have been the same forever, man. And those things they're like the 10 Commandments, right? They're not changing. Changing. But in order to get players to learn and to motivate, and so we're constantly enhancing our program. I don't think we're ever good enough. I'm one of those people that think, hey, man, it's going to be a challenge. Every game's going to be a challenge. Every practice is going to be a challenge. So let's go out and be over prepared and work our butts off. And, so in answer to your direct question, I'm answering it, but it's like, we're in a constant state of, Kaizen is 1% better every day. That us as coaches, we're getting 1% better every day. John Wooden had a saying, once you think you know it all, is when you start to lose. And, nobody knows everything about baseball. That's why, to me, it's the greatest game, man. Coaching clinics, ABCA, BCA, I belong to this coaching group right now. I'm amazed by the information that I get on my cell phone. I'm like, Coach Sato is a great example. His attention to detail, he kicks our butt 10-1 on attention to detail. He sends stuff out and I'm like, holy cow. But it's like, there's so many good people in this game that teach. This podcast, right? Coach Deggs, man. His talk at the ABCA his talk on your podcast, every time I hear that man speak, it's like he's talking directly to me, man. I'm like,
Right.
holy cow. It's like, and I just think, and there's certain coaches that resonate with you more than others, right?
Yeah.
Tim Corbin's phenomenal. I think my brother John's phenomenal. And I don't want to start naming coaches, so I'll leave somebody out, but you start listening to a clinic or a podcast, it doesn't, any idea that we can steal and put into our program that it's our responsibility to take all these good ideas and put them into our program and make it better for our kids. I don't want to leave any stone unturned, man. It's like, we got to keep going and keep getting better and better and better. Because nobody has this game figured out. Nobody has coaching figured out, and there's so many different ways to do it. It's just incredible.
There are. That definitely is. And I guess I could have been better of saying like, it's not that you wouldn't bring those guys in, is when you're thinking of bringing people in, how do you keep the message where you want it to be? You know what I mean? Like making sure that the message that you're trying to get across and the reason why you're bringing them in is going to stay consistent.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes at that point, it goes back to those pillars. Those things are my guiding light. If it doesn't reinforce one of those, then I'm not going to bring people in.
Right.
But also, go ahead.
I was just thinking, so for example, you bring a guy like Brian Kane in and say, hey, we need to work on this pillar. And that's how you're kind of guiding that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, but like I talked about Revisa and Brian, right? It's like, like Revisa used to say, have a good, shitty day. How many times do we go through life where we're getting a bad mood and it's like this and that. And it's like, hey man, turn it good. You tell your players to turn it good all the time. Now's the time to turn it good, man. Or, Kane's an energy guy, incredible energy. And I knew him, Brian, for a long time. When he first started, he was with Ken and Fullerton. And so I've known him for a long time, but the way he's evolved his career, and it doesn't matter. It could be, we have this thing called Successful Speaker Series. We can bring in a guy. We have tons of alumni in our program that are hugely successful. We have, like number five in our program was worn by Brady Dolan and Ryan Dolan. You don't know Dolans, but they're like this huge automobile dealership that own like 15 dealerships in Reno in Northern Nevada. And Brady played at UCLA for my brother. And, so it's like, hey, whoever wears number 5, I think of those two guys. So we do this thing, legacy of a number. It's like, okay, who's worn number 5 in our program? And then you try to connect those alumni with those 20 names, And so, but I'll bring in successful speakers on business, successful speakers on, law enforcement. It doesn't really matter as long as we can have our kids learn that, oftentimes a different voice is good. They get tired of hearing my voice, that kind of goes to leadership too. Cause it's like, I could tell them. But if one of their teammates is teaching them a leadership point, they may listen more,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to the player-to-player evaluation. 100%.
Yeah. And player-to-player respect is because it's like, man, there's nothing greater than earning the respect of your teammates. Matt Degg says that, right? He says there's no greater honor.
Schlossnagle says it too.
Schlossnagle, yeah. And Jim's great too at TCU and Texas A&M. I learned a lot from him. There's so many great coaches. And that's the thing though, Trey. There's more baseball information, more coaching information in this generation for us coaches than any time in my life, right? It's baseball information's everywhere. That is not the secret to team success. The secret to team success is building that relationship with that player and earning his respect so that he's going to bust his butt and give his best effort on behalf of his teammates and developing, just spending time, developing that relationship. humility is a big part of it. And that kind of goes to, why do you bring people in? How do you match the message? The program, you've heard of the program. It's a leadership development from the armed forces. The guy who spoke at the ABCA is phenomenal. He sends out an email, and you bring that to your team. The Navy SEAL concept, that's rampant all over the world now in college baseball and high school baseball. Jocko, right? There's so many good things we can learn from, but it all starts with humility. If once you think you got it figured out, I think you should get out of coaching too. I mean, I remember when Tim Corbin had Don Meyer speak at the ABCA. Do you remember Don Meyer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, I think he was the winningest college basketball coach in the history of, at one point he had the most wins in college basketball. And his name was Don Meyer. And he said, hey, you should fire yourself every year as a head coach at the end of the season. Fire yourself and start over, because you got to look at what went well and what you can improve and what you need to get better at, and what went wrong, and change. You have to change is a really good thing for any organization, right? I mean, you can't get stuck in your ways. And even though I'm old school and believe that the fundamentals of the game never change, those are the 10 commandments, right? There are different ways to enhance it. Technology, Rapsodo, Blast, all those things are great. I get caught up. I get a little frustrated when players only worry about their exit velocity or their throwing velocity, or, hey, I'm now a part of, I got first team, blah, 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 or this and that. Hey, it's all about, like we started this conversation with, how can you impact other people in a good way? We're put on this earth to impact other people in a positive, productive way. Love your players, love your coaches, make them better. We're not here for any other reason. It's like I said, nobody cares how many wins you have. No, the players don't care. These current players, they could care less. All they want is to be loved, to be taught, and to be challenged, and I'm kind of rambling on here, but I just think that humility, that's a huge piece, man. You have to be humble. You have to be humble.
Nope. No, you weren't rambling at all. You were preaching. It was great. You were giving us all kinds of great stuff, man. It was, I just love, and that's what I enjoy too. Like you talk about your passion of yours is learning from great coaches. And that's the whole reason I'm here. Be honest, is to learn and keep growing the game and showing those things. But like, I love for you, like you said, some people just speak your language and you just get to it. So it's like, man, I'm catching little things like, yeah, that's how I say it. But like Coach Savage says it like just a little bit better, like the 10 commandments that like sits with me about like the fundamentals of the game. They don't change. Here's what they are. Like they're just things like that, like building that relationship. I guess, like I said, I know I already hit on that, but I just love that because I think people think it's so fluffy when it's really can be just do your job well for the kids, have a plan, challenge them at practice, everything detailed. And that's building that relationship too, not necessarily just coming up and giving them a hug, which is so what some kids might need. But I think what you're saying, well, I'm building that relationship through like giving them the challenge that they need and every day coming at the plan.
Yeah, and it's no different. It's like raising kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you need to hug them, and sometimes you need to kick them in the butt. I mean, there's no difference. It's like every single kid you coach is becomes part of your family, and do the best job you can with them. And I think it's important to challenge them, and they want to be challenged. This group wants to be challenged. I mean, that's just part of our program is to challenge. So we certainly do that.
Yeah. And so thinking of this, Coach, I'm because this is another question I had down the road. Because you mentioned like playing like 90 some games, you try to play 100 games in a year, right? And then you talk about love and practice, right? So playing 60 games in 60 days from Memorial Day to September, like let's say Memorial Day, Labor Day. How do you go about your practice during that time? Like, is that just a different phase? You're not really focusing on it then? Or I'm just wondering, how are you squeaking by like your development during that period of time?
Pre-game, we do a lot of good things in pre-game. Pre-game offense, pre-game defense, pre-game pitching. I just think, we always come 2 hours prior to a game. If we play at 11 o'clock, we're there at 8:45. And if players have learned that they call it savage time, so be 15 minutes early. Don't ever be anything but 15 minutes early. Whether it's a job interview or a practice, or if my watch is 15 minutes faster than Apple's watch, I think that just be early. And so they get there 2 hours prior to, and it's our job to we don't really have a detailed practice plan prior to summer games, but it's like, I want that to be efficient. Hey, we're going to have an infield coach come out and work with our infielders. Infielders hit first, or, we have a 7 day a week pitching plan, in our program. I'm a very organized person. So we have manuals. We have a coaching manual. We have a parents manual. We have a pitching manual, a hitting manual, and a defensive manual, and a conditioning manual. So it's like, that's the way we do things. Now, is it constantly changing every year? Of course it is. But the basics aren't, right? I mean, pitching, right? Strike one, man. Throw it over the plate, win 2 out of 3, being able to locate 3 pitches. Offensively, we have 6 different phases of offense that we concentrate on. So in answer to your question, we play or practice about 10 months a year. Now, we have multi-sport athletes, okay? And I'm all for that. There's a whole bunch of guys that play at least 2, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, baseball, and they certainly learn a lot. Anything you can be in a competitive environment, it's a great learning experience. So I got no problem with guys playing multi-sport athletes. So they just wouldn't be with us for those 3 months. But for those guys that aren't, we'll always be at the field working, and we'll always be hitting, or we'll always be working on defense. I mean, pitching and defense to me is the standard. I mean, if you can pitch, our pitching has been phenomenal since I just think it's the most important part of the game.
Sure.
And in defense, that old saying, championships wins defense, or defense wins championships, excuse me. Defense wins championships. That's true in every sport, whether it's football, hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever. You have to play good defense. And everybody wants to hit, right? But it's important that pitching and defense is emphasized every day in practice. And that's why practice plans are so important. There's 6 phases of offense in every practice also. We believe in 6 different phases of offense. That's emphasized every single day in practice. And that competition part is emphasized in practice. So, the definition of a practice or a classroom, hey, everything's a learning environment. Our dugout could be considered a classroom. Would I love to have Vanderbilt's classroom right next to our field? Absolutely. We don't, but however your players, and that's the other thing, man, you as a coach, you got to figure out how players learn. I think one fault of coaches is that whatever we say automatically just like goes into their minds and they learn it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand how each kid learns. And, you got to present the information, verbally, like in a classroom situation, then go on the field and walk through it, and then rep and practice, because I just think if something goes wrong in a game, 100% is on the coach's fault. We haven't practiced it enough. If a rundown gets screwed up, hey, it's our responsibility as coaches to get it straight. Our players, academically, we won 5 years in a row, the state academic championship. Nice. Or the ABC academic certificate. That's important. I think our best players are 3.5 GPAs or above. You got to have a 2.5 to try out. I don't like dumb players, and I shouldn't say dumb players. I don't think the most successful people in this world, intelligence is not relentless approach to it is more important than intelligence. Anybody's capable of getting an A. Think about baseball, right? I have kids that memorize 100 lines of Shakespeare. They're in physics and they're in calculus, and yet they don't understand how to run a rundown. That's ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. Baseball, don't complicate it, man. It's a simple game. We just got to rep. And so that's why practice, I just think it's so important to have a checklist, to make sure you're checking things off. Practice practice what happens the most in a game, right? I have a card from every single game that I've ever coached, and we write down things we need to get better at or things that went right, plus or minuses. I just think it's important that you practice what's going to happen in the competitive environment of a game over and over and over again. So,
oh yeah, because I have to ask, because I remember Coach Sato, just speaking of Coach Sato again, he said one of the biggest things he was so impressed with was your pregame. So I'd love for you to take us through like what does a typical, let's say, I know you said it kind of varies on the day, but you would say in general what your typical pregame looks like.
well, and I don't think it's very good, to be honest with you. I honestly think it's if I had to give our pregame, I'd give it about a C. Okay.
Wow. See, that's Coach Sato. He's like, he blew his mind. Well, he said the same thing you did. He's like, I'm not doing this right, So
well, I've had other coaches tell me that too. Tell me more about your pregame. And
yeah.
So basically the warm-up, the active warm-up, the catch play, the individual defense. Then we have after we've taken our BP, we have a session prior to the game where we'll meet as a team and go over game goals. And it's a sheet of goals that go from team to pitching to defense to hitting to base running. And we go through those game goals. My players, they hear it every single day. It's the same message over and over and over again. And then we'll get into what we call back cals. Back cals is we try to talk through hitting approach where we're all lined up and we're swinging the bats. And we have my hitting coach is out there, Coach Royal. He's out there with our hitters. And then we're going, okay, we're facing a soft lefty today. This is our approach. And we go through situational baseball. We run through each situation, drag bunt, push bunt, hit and run and hit, first and second, 1 out, bases loaded, 1 out, all those things. And so we just go through all those situations. Then we meet as a team, we run our sprints, and we go. Now, again, I think it could become much more efficient. We try to cover a lot of things prior to the game. Our pitchers have a pregame routine. It's about 35, 40 minutes long. I don't think anything we do pregame is special. I think it's just like it's done every single day the same way. And I'm looking to improve it, man. I mean, I think that things can be improved all the time. And so I think that's pretty much our pregame, Trey.
You just don't, because like the way I asked too, because I'm sure you see this in summer league and things like that, or just coaching in general, you don't seem like a one-man fungo kind of guy. I mean, you see it all the time. You see one line, it just drives me wild. So like that's why I was like, I know Coach Savage isn't this guy, so like that's why I'm just kind of asking when you go through catch play and your defensive work and things like that. Like,
yeah,
are you basically doing like square drill all the time, or is it a certain like what kind of things you like to do so you eliminate those kind of like one line fungal?
Yeah. So we'll have 2 lines of infielders, 2 lines of 4 infielders, and 2 coaches hitting ground balls. Then we'll have our outfielders. I love. We use a ton of machines at practice. I mean, machines
awesome.
Cause massive reps. The Hack Attack Junior. I mean, we got a new pitching machine last year that is phenomenal, built by the Hack Attack guys. So I could take like, let's say we play your team. I could take that pitching chart and take the velocities and then program those 70 pitches into our machine, it'll just replicate that. So it's produced by the Hack Attack company, and anyway, it's phenomenal. It's very challenging as a hitter. Our hitters don't love it because it's hard, but I just think the more you can simulate what they're going to see in a game is obviously what we're all trying to do, right? I mean, batting practice, it's like that feel-good BP is more, it's like going to the psychologist more than it is helping them offensively. It's just building their confidence. And there's a time for that. But there's also a time that if you're going to see 92 miles an hour with a good slider, they got to see 92 miles an hour with a good slider.
Yeah.
Off a machine. And they hate it. But we hate losing. So right. we're gonna try to simulate that in practice, what we're going to see. We're going to try to really break down our opposing pitchers, our opposing teams, what we're going to see. That's the other thing is we'll have a ranking system so I'll have our hitters rank our pitchers and our pitchers rank our hitters. Like, who's the best, who's the toughest guy to face off our staff. We inter squad. I love inter squads as part of a practice, not the whole practice. So I think it's important that because the game, an 88 mile an hour fastball is an 88 mile. Doesn't matter who throws it, right? It's just got to learn how to hit it. And I think that's why offensively, Trey, I think approach is 10 times more important than mechanics. Yeah. I mean, we hammer approach because, and it also builds the team philosophy, the team offense. I just think it's really important that, first and second, 1 out is a great example. Our players know that it's a cardinal sin to roll over in that situation. You cannot roll over with a first and second, 1 out, or bases loaded, 1 out. You can't roll over. You can't be early, right? We don't want that because where's the best player playing on defense in a high school team? Shortstop. He's going to go 6-4-3 double play, inning over. Now, I like that policed by our players more than by the coaches. So, I want our players pissed when one of their teammates rolls over in that situation. Now, again, you got to put them in that situation. First and second, 1 out. And then, we have during our practices, if you strike out, they can take a lap around the field. It's that simple. Striking out is the worst thing that can happen on offense. So don't strike out, and after a while, if you run enough around the field, you're going to hate striking out too. So, that's not punishment. That is just what I call reality evaluation. It's just reality evaluation. It's like, and are you that bad of a hitter that you can't change your 2-strike approach? We have this thing I think you'd be interested in. So it's and you can come up with your own, but it's like, what is the definition of toughness? Examples on a baseball field, right? So it's like, hey, an infielder leaves his feet with a runner in scoring position and keeps that run from scoring. That's an example. 2-strike hitting, toughness. 2-strike pitching, toughness. Now, again, I think every coach in America knows those things. There's no difference there. But do you emphasize it and do you practice it? Because this game is played a lot with 2 strikes. And if you can dominate the mound with 2 strikes, it's like when Tim Corbin did that. I don't know. Did you see that defensive clinic from Vanderbilt about
which one?
Where all the outs, how many outs were made on the mound, how many outs, where the ball went as far as on defense, how many times out.
Oh, the number of it?
Yeah.
The number of Ks? No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's phenomenal. But he had a lot of outs on the mound because of strikeouts, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Right? Because he has such a great pitching staff.
Right.
So, but it's like, how many times does the first baseman make a put out? How many times does the catcher touch the ball on defense? So my point is this. Figure out with your pitching staff where the ball goes in the game. Hey, today it hit shortstop 6 times, or the 3-4 hole was worn out, or what, our catcher had 3 blocked curveballs in the dirt and was really good at throwing to first base and getting that out. And then you got to train. Now, so I love. So Corbin always goes a different level. It's like my brother John. His pitching stuff. I think he's the best pitching coach in the country. Phenomenal. He builds great pitchers, but it's not like it's a lot of work behind it, right? It's like what a UCLA pitcher is going to look like, and that's what I want a Reno High pitcher to look like. He looks like these things. He's going to be a strike thrower. He's going to have a long, loose arm. He's going to be a 3-pitch mix guy. He's going to be tough. There's that word again, right? Hey, pitching, runner on third, less than 2 outs. Guy doesn't score. On offense, toughness, that guy scores, right? So, but it's like, define what toughness is you're on the field and track it. Maybe it's dirt ball reads. Maybe it's stolen bases, whatever it may be. And then you got to track it, and then emphasize it. We have a thing called play of the day. And a lot of people do this too. They give away a T-shirt for play of the day. And I've told the story multiple times. but it's a story that means a lot to me. So our shortstop in 2010 was a kid named Austin Wood. And he got some play of the day. My shortstop gets play of the days because there's a lot of diving plays, right? And so, about 8 years later, I get this text from him saying, "Coach, I just want you to know that I'm over here as a Marine leader, and I'm in charge of my group over here." And I can't remember. I think it was in Iraq. And he's like, I wear my Reno High baseball T-shirt, play of the day T-shirt under my battle gear every single day, because that R reminds me of all the values you've taught us. So, I give that handout to our players because it's like, hey, these play of the day T-shirts might not mean a lot to you today, but they're going to certainly mean a lot to you later. So, that type of thing. So, what you honor and what you emphasize has to become important to the players, right? I mean, that play of the day is important. That T-shirt, you earned it, man. You made a great play today, or you were a great teammate today. You wear that shirt with honor. You earned it, So there you go.
Love it. Fantastic stuff, man. We are rolling. Dude, it's already been over an hour. Oh man, this is great. The 6 phases of offense. That was another question mark I had back on the notes as I'm taking them just to revisit that. 6 phases of offense, and you said you bring it up every day at practice too. Like you'll go over all the 6 phases. So I guess what are they, and then how do you go over every phase every day?
Yeah, so that's why we have long practices. So it's important. I mean, I don't like baseball's a very time-consuming sport to become good at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's no secret. The best hitters are going to hit a lot, right?
Yeah.
The best base runners are going to work on base running. So the six different things, the 6 different phases of offense, right? Hitting, right, is the obvious one, but situational hitting. How is your team doing with a runner on second, no outs, runner on third, less than 2 outs, bases loaded, runner on first, 1 out. So situational hitting is key. Short game offense, man. I mean, Garrett Hampson is in the big leagues right now, playing for the Colorado Rockies. He's the most humble player I think I've ever coached, and he's the best player I ever coached. But he's phenomenal at short game offense. He can drag, he can push, he can slash, he can hit and run, he can do all those things. So situational hitting, short game offense, hitting, plate zone discipline. Brian Shoup, the coach from Alabama, Birmingham. I learned a ton from him, and he's got a whole disciples of coaches that are still coaching. And Brian's attention to detail is phenomenal. But it's like, okay, every bullpen, and I got this from my brother John. Every bullpen you throw, there's a stand-in hitter. There's a live hitter standing there, grading pitches, right? Because the more pitches you see, the better hitter you're going to be. That's no secret. Base running, which is severely undertaught, and it's a huge weapon at the high school level, base running and base stealing. Coach Gillums wrote a book a long time ago about offense. I kind of got those from him. So I steal information all the time, and you just got to make it your own, right? So, and then you got to emphasize those 6 things in practice. But get yourself around the bases. Once you swing that bat and that ball gets put in play, you're now a base runner. You're no longer a hitter. Okay, so are you a slug that it's going to take 2 hits to drive you in from first base, and you're not a very good offensive player? But can you get on base with a drag, still second, tag up on a fly ball, and then score on a ground ball? Can you get yourself around the bases? Maybe you base hit hard around the bases, left fielder bobbles, you get to second, you're barely safe. Left-hander on the mound, you steal third, right? And you score on a wild pitch. You got yourself around the bases. Not one teammate had to contribute for you to get you around the bases. Those are run producers. Those guys are so valuable. But you work on base stealing in practice. You work on base running in practice. We work on base running and base stealing right after active warm up every day in practice. And I tell a guy, hey, Hampson stole 68 bases in one summer. And he'll say, well, coach, so that's the standard. I go, that's the standard. And so now I never gave Garrett the steal sign. Garrett was a phenomenal base stealer on his own. So the best base stealers are great because they can anticipate and they can, speed. Good base runners are good vision guys. They see things before they happen. It's not so much to being the fastest runner that makes you a good base runner. It's baseball instincts. It's being able to get a feel here that this guy is going to have a long, slow front leg, and you're going to be able to steal, or anticipate that dirt ball. I just think that, and then we're going to bunt every single day. My players get so tired of us bunting so much, but it's a weapon, man. People that can't defend it. And Augie Garrido, one of the greatest coaches in the world. I was at a clinic and he's, they asked him first and second, no outs. He goes, I'd bunt Babe Ruth, and so that's kind of not typical of the way Major League Baseball players play anymore. Right. It cracks me up though, because come playoff, then they try to bunt in the playoffs. Right. But the Giants are a great example right now. San Francisco Giants, they bunt, they play great team baseball. They don't have the most talented team. There's the Dodgers are way more talented than the Giants, but the Giants are in first place because they do all the fundamentals of the game. Situational hitting, you got to rep it in practice. Every single swing and batting practice has a situational piece connected to it. We never just swing the bat. Okay. Plate zone discipline. That's a make or break deal as an offensive player, and we define it as you swing at the pitch, you swing at your best pitch, but you also never chase. Don't chase. Bad hitters chase. Good hitters are prepared for their pitch when it comes. So there's two sides of plate zone discipline, right? There's that one part that, hey, that guy threw your best pitch and you're ready to put your best swing on it and you roped it, or did you take your best pitch? We came up with a new chart last year. My hitting coach, Coach Royal, came up with it, but it was a quality swing chart, and it's like, because we always say, hey, just try to get 2 good swings off every at bat. Well, we started grading it out. It's like, okay. And you have your hitting slots on the Excel spreadsheet. And it's like, hey, this kid got no good swings off today. And you can look at it as a team. Hey, with 2 strikes, we got 50% of our good swings off with 2 strikes. That's a phenomenal day.
That's a good day.
Good day.
Yes.
Or you know what? On our advantage counts, we were at 30% on advantage counts. That's not very good. That means we're not prepared to hit. So that quality,
Will you have that? Will that coach chart that, or is that something a kid does? Or you have someone maybe behind there? Just you have a manager.
Well, I'm having him do it because I think it's
important.
It's an important deal, and I love your. One thing I want from you is your weighted quality at bat chart. I think because we're relentless about quality at bats. So we have these camouflage jerseys that our quality at bat leader wears, and our quality pitch leader, our quality innings leader wears in practice. So everybody knows who those 2 best guys are every single day.
Yeah.
But you're right when I heard you say in one of your podcasts that every quality at bat's not equal. That is entirely true. So I would like to get that from you when we get done here. And I just think that, but we have a hustle chart. We got a quality at bat chart. We have quality innings pitch chart, freebie chart like everybody. Freebie chart's turnover chart, right? It's like whoever wins that's going to win the game. It's that simple.
So good.
Yeah.
That's Justin Deemer. Is that where you got it?
Yeah, Justin's a good friend. I love him too, man. He comes out probably every other year and spends a few days with us. And his stuff's phenomenal. Yeah, it's very objective. I
love it. Yes. I always loved his statement. I loved his statement of I'm pretty sure it was his, about he wanted to become a track coach. And just where because the track coach got the best job in the world. Look, buddy, you can't argue with this, you know? And so like if baseball wise, we just kind of put it to that because it was until that point and he just blew my mind. Like it was absolutely subjective, you know? And yeah, we could say like, I'm a guy, like I'm the coach. I've been here doing it, but it was it was still so extremely subjective.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to the analytics of the game. You know, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, we got Rapsodo for pitching. We got Blast for hitters, but you know, hey, that stopwatch is an analytic too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's when your time from home to first is this, or when your infielder stole the ball, or when a runner from first to second, that stopwatch, or the speed gun, right, the velocity gun. I mean, analytics. You can make it as big as you want to make it. Again, we can't track everything. You know, I think it's important. A lot of coaches make the mistake. It's like, hey, we're going to install this whole thing. And it's like, hey, you got to decide what you want to be good at. What we want to be good at Reno High is be a good teammate, right? Be great at pitching and defense, and be great at those 6 phases of offense. And that translates into winning. And you know, I just think that's the way we do things at Reno High.
Track it and emphasize it.
Yep. Measurement equals motivation. That's a Brian Shoup deal. And I learned that from him at the ABCA. Anytime he talked, I'm in the front row at those ABCA because, you know, I mean, right. Tim Corbin's in the front row. It's like, man,
Yep.
If he's out there doing that and he's winning this much, we should all be there. And
I remember Shoup early day, like so you know, on the East Coast is when they came to the Cherry Hill Clinic in Jersey. That was another clinic that those guys went through, and then Cohen went and brought his whole staff. That's where I met Butch and Mick Mangione. That's where Gillespie speak there too. Just awesome. Like it was a lot more intimate than the ABCA. Of course, all those guys are there, but then you walk right up to them right afterwards, and so that's where I met with Butch afterwards, and we got to talking, and it was super good. But yeah, I remember Itchy Jones, Jim Lefebvre. Jim Lefebvre was spoke one year too. That was wild, man. Oh man, that was super cool. Sorry, before I forget about this, the hustle chart. Is that something that you just like? Will you just write down like the plus or minuses, or plus that like things that you want to emphasize, or are you just checking off boxes?
We're just checking off boxes, basically. How hard we come off the field, get on the field, okay. But also, you know, any extra hustle plays. You know, there's a coach. I think it was Ryan McGinnis from Wisconsin. He's a phenomenal coach too, from Kimberly High School. You should try to get him on here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because he was like, there's 5 different games you got to win every single time. One would be when you get on the bus. You know, do you win that bus trip? Second one is pregame, right? Do you win the pregame? Third, and when I talk about pregame, that's not pregame infield, outfield. That's just pregame. Like, who does a better pregame? Is our pregame better than your pregame?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's our infield, outfield. So we count drops, like us against the other team. And if we lose that, they run the next day. So we'll and then there's the actual game, right? So did we win or lose that game? Then the post game, how do we finish up? Did we learn from that game? How do we leave the bus when we leave the field? Or how do we do the field cleanup when we're at home? So those 5 different games every single day. When you actually play one game, there's actually 5 different games going on, right? There's the bus ride to the game. There's the pregame work. There's the infield, outfield. There's the actual game. Then there's post game. You know, how well do you do your post game? Do your players actually learn and listen to what you're saying, or is it just eyewash? You know, eyewash on a baseball field is a disaster. If you're doing things just to do them and they're not really being productive, that's how you lose. That's how you get those bad practices, right? So do things with intent. I think that's an important thing. The word intent is huge. Do with it everything with a competitive intent to win. I think that's important.
What was that guy's name?
Ryan McGinnis from Kimberly High School in Wisconsin. Nice. Yeah, he'd be great. I saw him at ABCA. Great coach.
Awesome. Yeah, let's. If we can connect, we'll do it. if he's up for it, that'd be awesome. I love that, the game within the game, man. The 5 games there. Yeah, I had some questions. That's the post game is what really has me curious. How do you like make that objective? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? How do you make it
and
objective?
there is some subjectivity. I think again, you got to be creative. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
instead of the coach talking all the time. I mean, I love post game because I think it's like post surgery. As a doctor, you got to figure out what went right, what went wrong. As a military guy, during a invasion or whatever, what went right, what went wrong. Same thing with a baseball game. What went right, what went wrong. I'm not one to say, okay, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We're going to talk about it right now. Because to me, it's important. And the more questions you ask in that, the more they're going to listen. When you put people on the spot and say, hey, what did you see today? Nobody likes being embarrassed, so they'll listen with intent, because I mean that's how you learn. You debrief, and I'm not saying you're out there for 30 minutes. I'm saying you're out there for 10, 15 minutes, but you got to go over what went right, what went wrong. Hey, this is important. We've all seen the Augie Garrido, right? The video.
yeah,
This is important. This what we're doing here is important. And this baseball program means a lot to me. This team means a lot to us as a program. So this game is important. That's the other thing. We play those 110 games. To me, every game is equally important. Whether it's the high school state championship or the third game of the summer, they're all important. I think coaches make mistakes when they say, "Yeah, well, it's just a summer game.
mm-hmm.
We're just gonna kind of roll it out today, see how it goes." You'll never see us do that at Reno High. We're gonna go all out all the time. Every single day is important. We're not going to waste time. I mean, Trey, to me, wasting time is a cardinal sin. It's like no player wants to waste time. As a coach, I don't want to waste time. Our time is valuable, right? So let's make it the best we can for our kids. So I think that's the one thing that's helped us be successful is every game's important. Every day is important. Like we got to practice tomorrow. I can't wait, right? It's like it's our challenge to make that practice the best possible practice we can. And now it's important that the kids have fun at practice, right? I told our kids this at the end of the summer, guys. We were 43-6. We didn't get 60 games in because a couple of games got canceled. We were 43-6-1, so we played 50 games in 60 days. And I said, hey, winning's important. Winning's fun. There has to be that's the difference between travel baseball and I'm not here bagging on travel baseball, but our high school program, you get consistently evaluated every day, and you're on a spectrum, right? From the minute you enter the program to the minute you end. It's not like, well, I'm in a tournament in Phoenix, and next week I'm in LA. Next week I'm in no. You're on the Reno High baseball team, Reno Knights team. It's continuous. It just keeps going and going and going. And, I go back to Garrett Hampson. When you talk about humility, I got to bring this up. He had a 76-game hitting streak in our program. It was between a high school season, an entire summer season, and another high school season. One day he didn't get a hit. And I didn't know he had a 76-game hitting streak, and he didn't know he had a 76-game hitting streak. One day he didn't get a hit. And I go, God, that's odd. And I'm gonna go back and look, and then I looked, and it was 76 straight games where he got a hit. But the beautiful part about it, and I think the reason why he's in the big leagues today, is he didn't know it either. His parents weren't posting it on Facebook, right? He just played for the love of the game. And if you watch him play today, man, he's playing 4 different positions in the big leagues. And it was great because he got on a Zoom call with our team last year in Colorado from Mile High or from Coors Field, whatever it's called. And he shows up on the Zoom call in his Reno High baseball t-shirt. He had a Reno High baseball play of the day t-shirt on, right? So it's like, here's a guy in the big leagues wearing our stuff. And I'm like, that's humility, man. That's great. So he's definitely a huge part of it. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Man, I love it, Coach. I want to respect your time here. We've been at it an hour and a half just rolling. And I love it too. I do. I love it. I love the passion, and you're definitely a model, for the coach that, and can't thank you enough for jumping on here, man, and talking some good baseball. Talking more baseball, what's the best way to kind of connect with you if guys want to like learn more?
Yeah, I gave you my my email. It's email is PETES at SAVAGEANDSON.com. It's a long one.
Yeah.
Or my cell number, 775-690-9316. Hey, I'm an open book. I got no secrets. I've learned from so many good coaches. I think, one of my very first coaching clinics way back in I think it was 88, Dave Snow, the old coach from Long Beach, who is actually helps my brother at UCLA. You know that name, Dave Snow?
I don't.
Oh man, so he's the one that invented. He brought Long Beach State to greatness. He was Team USA coach. He was Augie Garrido's pitching coach at Fullerton. But anyway, his sign system, the sign system we use today, I got from Dave Snow back in 1987. I mean, so and his great pitching philosophy, great mental game guy. Talk about building toughness in players. Dave Snow was a standard. Mike Gillespie from USC had the guts to steal home in the College World Series. Just being that goes back to being your own coach. Be your own. Butch says it all the time. You be you.
Yes, sir.
And you got it. You got to decide what you want to stand for and emphasize it every single day in practice. Emphasize what your team wants to look like. There's nothing worse, Trey, than a coach that says, I don't really like our leaders. I don't like our team. Hey, it's like you're the leader. You're the leader of the team. So everything reflects back on you. So, and it goes back to anything's possible if you want to put the time and effort into it. Like I said, I just been so fortunate to be around so many good baseball people. I consider you one of those people. I mean, when I listen to your podcast, man, it's like so many good. It's just like it's baseball clinic 101, man. It's awesome. And it's like, it's phenomenal what we have at our fingertips now, right? We can get on our cell phone, take our dog for a walk, and listen to Matt Deggs talk about offense, and through people like yourself. So you're a huge part of growing the game, and I just very fortunate and grateful to be on this podcast today. So thank you,
Coach Savage. Just amazing stuff. It was a conversation that we hit it 100%, 100 mile an hour right from the get-go. Just reminded me, I just kept on thinking like this his consistency and this message and what he walks and what he talks. This is the no wasted time he talked about in his practices and during pre-games and shows up. We didn't waste any time. It was from one thing to the next. We rolled. We talked about it, and it was so valuable. And it was just really great to see him work and touch base with him and talk some baseball. I just the big thing that stuck out to me was his model, his consistency, his message. I love people that just those are the guys that when they can walk the walk, that's what he's about. Love guys that are about their players. You can see he's about the players. He's about developing them. As he goes and talks about always he's doing that from love the peer-to-peer evaluations. Basically helping kids create self-awareness from the as you see it where guys are creating lineups or they're thinking who the best 5 starters are. From the 5 areas, how are you in these areas come, and each person grades themselves. Each person grades their teammates. So valuable. Especially just from a self-awareness standpoint. You might be doing this, but no other teammates saw you there, or vice versa. There's a couple guys that need to like, you are the dude. You can play. Here's even what these guys say about you. I could definitely see that even happening on the other end as well. Because you have to know that you are doing it well and you need to continue doing things well. And that's what he talked about. He talked about that basically at the end of the year, you have to say, here's what we're doing well, we need to continue doing that. We're not doing these things well, we're going to stop doing that, so we need to start doing other things. I love the continue, start, stop growth plan. Defining failure versus success. What does it mean? What does it mean when we fail? What does it mean when we succeed? Defining those two. He said it multiple times about emphasizing what you're about. Emphasize it, track it, train it, repeat it, do it again. Emphasize it, train it, repeat it. Measure its motivation. Talked about that. But finding what you are, what you're about, finding examples of it, holding it accountable to that, and train it, track it, emphasize it. Just a great conversation. Filled with it. It energized me. Just loved it. It's a practice coach. Practice are for the coaches. Games are for the players. A ton of information. Gave you a ton of stuff. And if you haven't done the foxhole test, what another great way to see if you're about a good teammate. The 3 points for the person that you'd have on your back, 2 points for the person you'd have on your right, and then 1 person you'd have on your left. See who gets the most points. Phenomenal how people show up in front of their peers. Awesome stuff. Coach Savage, just bringing it. I love that I talk about the 10 Commandments. The fundamentals. These don't change, but maybe how we go about them might. How we plan for this team might. Every team has their own little identity, and we're always trying to get 1% better. But those commandments, those fundamentals, they stay the same. Legacy of the number. Oh, man, how cool is that? Trying to remember who wore that number. If you got a program, you've been in there, like who wore number 5, who wore number 7, who wore number 8. Yeah, these might not be guys that you have retired their number, but just even telling the story, that number, there's something behind that, man. That's super cool. So I just love listening to like different things like that that'll help the six phases of offense, how he incorporates that into a daily practice plan. And again, if you want something, you're going to be about it. Track it, measure it, emphasize it, keep repeating it. Coach Savage, can't thank you enough. Can't thank you guys enough for holding on to us. Again, keep sharing with us. Contact me at TreyTCobb@gmail. Follow me on Twitter at Coach3Cobb. Follow the podcast for all new podcasts that are coming up. I'm also getting ready to release our gear list. I'm going to have some merchandise, some Better Men, Better Ball Player merchandise. We're going to put up an online store. Guys who want to get some shorts, get some swag, get some merch. But everything that we do through this online store, any kind of money we're going to make, we're going to put it into giving gifts to the guests. Getting back to the guys who are putting this stuff out. Getting back to the guys that are making this stuff possible. I want to be able to do more for the guys, for the great people who are help putting this stuff out, helping us all grow, helping us improve the game. So I want to give out and give back to those guys as much as I can. I don't feel like I do enough. I want to be able to give enough for those guys that, and all those people that do it, because we've had some great women on here as well. So that's what that's going to be out. It's coming out here soon. We're going to release that. Be looking for that as we get some merchandise. Get some merchandise coming up. So, but again, thank you for holding with us. Thank you to those guys, Netting Pros and Netting Pros Family Chat. Thanks, Coach Savage. Appreciate you guys. And until next week, keep getting better.